Hello and welcome to Left Coast Live. I am Dieter McBusiness, America's WASP, joined as always by the one and only stateless patriot of the Central Valley. We are California lefties coming to you with commentary on national politics, sometimes specific to California. And also, there will be a heavy dose of foreign policy in tonight's episode. Stapat,
Oh
I know you're
boy.
good to go. I'm going to go ahead and bring in our special guest right away because he is a busy guy and he needs to be taken care of.
hmm
Connor Kelly, what's up, dog? How are you, man?
It's been good. It's been a while since I've had the pleasure of coming on here. I wish it was under better circumstances, wasn't without the risk of serious war. But unfortunately, doesn't seem to be the case as of late. So good to be back. Good to see you guys.
Of
Yeah, well,
course.
it's definitely calmed down since the days of Doge, I think. It's becoming a little bit more predictable as it's becoming politically disadvantageous to be MAGA. And we've talked a little bit about the handful of Republican figures that are just ever so gently trying to separate themselves from Trump. Meanwhile, the more interesting topic for us with other lefties is always how we're going to get power.
Mhm.
How are we going to get power? Um, and this actually, current events. Let's go to this New York mayoral election. Looking very interesting for, is it Zoran or Zohan? It's Zoran, right? With an R?
I believe it's Zoran.
Mamandi?
I think so.
Yeah, Zoran Mamandi. And
hmm
he is just taking Cuomo to school as well as advocating for a progressive agenda. He is probably getting called a socialist in some media circles. I haven't seen it yet, but I haven't looked that hard, admittedly. So I'm
He's got a lot
optimistic
of
about,
momentum.
as dark as it is, Connor. I think America is an alcoholic or a drug addict, and our drug of choice is baby boomer conservative capitalism. And we're just waking up for that most recent relapse, right? And you got to go through hell to get back to earth, and you don't go back in the way you came. So, my whole point is progressives like the three of us and other lots of others that we saw this weekend at the No Kings rally, we get to be the sponsors. We get to be the AA sponsors
hmm
and tell everybody this is how you build a society, because we do need to advocate for structural change on the left, both institutionally and individually, because if we don't, MAGA is only going to be a verdict on the alt right and not the entire right, which is what I think we all agree MAGA should be, is a verdict on all of conservatism.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we need to remember when it comes to how MAGA has developed over the last decade is not just like a product of this decade, but of all the decades beforehand,
Yes,
going all the way back to Reagan. I think
1980. Yep.
the fundamental problem we've had with the Republican Party is it doesn't seem to be very capable of handling extremism, and the Democratic Party, generally speaking, has not been good in responding to that extremism.
Yeah.
A healthy republic should theoretically have political parties that are able to have a standard set of rules for how they conduct themselves relative to the institutions that exist. Republicans have thrown that completely out the window. I think Republicans are starting to realize rather late that Donald Trump was never had any serious institutional interests or concerns about the public good, and that he was just saying whatever he wanted to get into power. He claimed he was the anti-war candidate. Well, now he's giving the go-ahead for Israel to continue these bombing runs against Iran, potentially provoking a larger regional conflict. He has been messing with pretty much Social Security, Medicaid, and everything he could possibly get his hands on, and now he's fighting with Tucker Carlson. I don't like Tucker Carlson, but I know if you're on the right, you do not necessarily try to start a fight with Tucker Carlson. So yeah, it's just one big mess that has been culminating for a very long time. And my hope is that people on the left, people within the Democratic Party, people pushing for improvement within the Democratic Party will basically force the Republicans to stick their nose in the mess that they made.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It says a lot that it says a lot, especially about like the current state of affairs when people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene are voices of reason. You know, it shouldn't be like that. But like, I mean, if it means that people within the administration are listening and heeding the warnings, like fucking Tucker Carlson handing it to handing
Ted
Ted
Cruz.
Cruz's ass. Yeah, like, dude, Iran has like 90 million people in it. This isn't going to be a cakewalk. It's what I've noticed recently. It's just like it's the same playbook that was used for Iraq. Like we gotta attack them before they attack us. Weapons of mass destruction. This whole fucking thing. It's just history is repeating itself right now.
Yeah.
Like, and only Israel, because I mean, just to dive like into the subject because it's just
It's
so
ubiquitous
pressing
now.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
It's hard to get
everybody's
away from. It's hard to get away from
yeah.
right now.
No, yeah,
Mhm.
even my normie friends that don't even follow politics are like
It's out of
they're
control.
stuck up on potassium iodine, like. But only Israel can offensively attack a country unprovoked and take out like multiple leaders and power plants, while simultaneously waging genocide, starving hundreds of thousands of people, um, occupying and bombing like the region, like their neighboring countries, and not to mention just buying off like U.S. media and multiple politicians, and yet they still cry victim.
Yes, they always will.
Yeah,
They're not
it's
creative.
insane. No,
They
they're not.
always will. They don't think that the rules apply to them. Like when they think chosen people, they're not talking about all Jews. They're talking about Zionists.
Specifics, yes, yes.
And they're specifically like there's a status in Zionism, and if you're in Israel, then you're higher up than you are in, even as an
Quite
APAC member or as an APAC donor in America. Like
quite
those,
literally. Like
yeah,
it's actually insane how anti-Semitic a lot of Zionist Jews actually are. Like they see they look at it as like, oh, you have family that died in the Holocaust. They must have been weak. It's just like what the fuck?
really,
Yeah,
I haven't come across that. That's
it's
hardcore.
insane. No, it's really bad. Like there's such like anti-Semitism among Zionists. It's insane. And since we're talking about like the attitudes of these horrible people, I recommend anybody and everybody to watch the video Palestine by Sean. Sean's an OG bread tuber, Sean Skull. You've probably seen his account on Twitter as well, but it's a great hour and a half video that dives deep into the subject and why a lot of the attitudes are held by Israeli Zionists, and not to mention the propaganda that's perpetuated by them, and the history of especially the history of the region. You'll learn a lot by checking that video out.
All right.
I would also like point out
yeah.
just on the international relations front. I think
Yes.
the other thing that's really concerning with how Israel has been conducting itself since October 7th is it's been really dependent upon Netanyahu constantly pushing for war. And that's because he faces not just international
Yes.
charges, but domestic charges
Yes.
in Israel itself. That's part of the
Yes.
reason
Yep.
he went after Israel's own judiciary and tried to put it under the control of his allies in the Knesset. His objective is not even for the benefit of the Israeli population. It's to
No.
benefit himself.
Yep.
He is trying to avoid prison time.
Prosecution by staying in power. Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
we've
his
seen
plan
that
is to
can
just
be
stay in
effective.
power until he dies. I guess it's just
Yeah.
prime minister until he dies.
Yeah,
I mean, we've already seen Trump pull that.
Yeah, none of them want to like face any accountability at all. Like they really do
No,
genuinely
they don't
feel
think
like
the
they're
rules apply to them, dude.
exactly
This
bingo.
is just
It's
this is like taking American exceptionalism and putting it into a laser beam and carving out a country in the Middle East. That's what
literally
Israel is.
Yeah.
That's the same. It's
Thanks,
the same
Great Britain.
fucking. It's the same disease, dude. Patriotism is a virtue of the vicious, and exaggerated patriotism is the most ill form of self-conceit. Right?
Yeah.
Oscar Wilde.
It's just the a rehash of the colonialism of the
But
old.
that's how they
the old-
justify it. Yes, colonialism is the result and the goal,
Mhm.
but the vehicle for the individual effort is patriotism.
Yeah.
It is a certain form of patriotism, is blind faith
Yeah, it's
patriotism.
nationalism. Yeah.
I mean, people who try to like get in my face, or I haven't had this happen, but I'm saying if I was like in LA or New York and I went to a protest and some like pro-Israel person got in my face, like I would shout them down right now. Like, you are just plain wrong.
Yeah, and
You're picking fights with everybody. And this is the thing is, like, you talk about the Republican Party since 1980, which we do as well. This is a verdict for me personally on Israel since 1989, because that's
Yeah.
when I started watching the nightly news.
Yeah.
And for as long as I can remember, ever since the Berlin Wall fell, the most popular news story, the most frequently recycled news story, was Israel going to war with someone.
Yep.
Israel's going to war with Iran. Israel's going to war with Syria. Israel's going to war with Egypt. And if they're not going to war, they're considering going to war. That's the other story.
Or
That's
carrying
probably
out
even more frequent.
or carrying out a massacre or a land grab. Fucking like I mean, and this has been like the go-to talking point for over 3 fucking decades at this point. Like
Yes, that's my point.
any day now, like Iran is weeks away from developing a nuke.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
we,
kiss
we
my ass.
yeah, it's like over 3 decades. It's just like anyone with any semblance of knowledge about the history of the region and the powers and ideologies that be, especially like where Netanyahu comes from and the Likud party and the Zionists of his ilk. They just compare and contrast. Uh, these powers that be have been uh, in their positions for decades. This has been a multi-decade long campaign. They should, like anybody paying attention, should be far more concerned about Israel having nuclear weapons rather than Iran, because 3 decades, still no nukes. They just they ended the nuclear program in 2003. They signed a non nuclear proliferation treaty. Israel didn't fucking do that shit. So it's like the blame is being misdirected. Iran's being scapegoated, but this has been the long game, and now we're reaching the end game status because Israel has been dying for a war with Iran for
Well, they're going to get
decades
away
now.
with whatever they want to for the next, while Trump's in office. They're going to get
Yeah.
away with whatever they want until somebody wins a primary in the Democratic Party that's anti-APAC. I mean, it is unbelievable the extent to which the mainstream media will go to ignore this crap. I mean,
Yeah.
all you have to do is Google Netanyahu corruption, and
Yes.
within 3 minutes, you will be like, oh, okay, now I get it. It's really not complicated. It's
just-
really not. It's a concentration of power that supersedes every other source of power within the state. And it's been concentrated into Netanyahu's hands since 2006. And let's give the guy credit. He's a master of it. He knows how to work the political system in his country.
Yeah.
You know, you can't argue with those results, dude. 19 years? You can't argue with those results. So
Right.
fuck him. And the only way out of this, the only intellectual escape hatch I see, and you tell me what you think, Connor, is to put it all on Netanyahu, is to get him to resign. You know, what I would do is, if I were president, I would say, hey, Benny, come on here to Washington. Come on out and explain it to my people, like what's going on, whatever. Okay, just kind of lure him in. And then right when he gets here, put him under arrest and send him to The Hague. And just be like, yeah, and then you cancel weapon sales to Israel for the next 100 years, or at least 50. And
Yes.
that's how I would handle the situation, because I think it's been a long time coming. They get to have nukes and no one else in the region gets to have nukes. Like, they have this umbilical cord with the United States Congress that no one else gets to have. It's ridiculous. Someone on the left, and I think it's got to be someone of surreal arrogance, has to say, hey, I love Jews, but I hate Zionists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not embarrassed about that. And there is a difference. And don't let any Zionist tell you there isn't, because they will. Zionists will tell you that in order to be Jewish, you have to be a Zionist too. That's what Zionists will say.
Yeah.
So fuck them, dude. They're fucking terrorists. They're fucking There, you
Yeah.
know, when we were growing up, it was Kosovo. It's that shit all over again, just different context.
So I will just say, on the one hand, I do think we need to be very blunt that this is all Netanyahu. They don't even have the bunker bombs necessary to get through the facility that they are
No.
attempting to strike. And for all intents and purposes, Israel is attempting, at least in my opinion, to take out a potential rival in the region so that they can expand their influence over the Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, Iran, and with the decline with these militias, and I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're good.
It with the decline of these rivals in Hamas and Hezbollah, I think the most likely perspective that Israel has taken, specifically Netanyahu has taken, is number one, he doesn't want to go to jail, and number two, if he has an opportunity to appear stronger for his own benefit and keep some of the more right-wing elements of his country around him, then he'll be set. The problem is there is a serious risk of other countries being dragged in, like the United States. I just think this has gone far beyond anything that could have been justified by October 7th, occupying Syria, using starvation as a weapon of war. Now we're assisting Israel in attacking Iran, whether it's through intelligence or possible. And then I think they confirmed we were providing some of the weapon supplies for some of the early strikes. This has gone far beyond anything that can be justified from the attacks on October 7th. This should have ended a long time ago. The fact that we have failed to adequately counteract AIPAC's influence, partially because of Citizens United making money so important to maintaining political influence and capital, is just unbelievable. The other thing is, I would distinguish between even Zionists and Kahanists. I very firmly believe that what we're seeing right now is a long-standing extremism, even worse than Zionism, but full-on Kahanism. The extremism that even the Israeli government feared through Mir Kahan and his belief that Arabs had no rights in Israel whatsoever. His belief that Israel would only be a Jewish state, a Jewish supremacist state.
Yes.
Granted, that's still kind of on the fringe, but I think with the extremists putting Netanyahu, they do not want to, like, Mir Khan's a specific party. I have it right here. He was, hold on, it was a longer article. Admittedly, I didn't have a lot of time to pull this guy's stuff up. It's the Koch Party in 1988. But
what
he
you
was
just described seems to me like the foundational ideology of Zionism. Like, they're entitled to that space and they don't want the Palestinians there, and they can do whatever the fuck they want to get them out.
But in getting the Kahanist belief that, like, there are Arab people in Israel who are not Jewish who do have legal rights. Kahanism is another step further than that. I would agree with you on the Palestinian side of things. Yes, that's the mainstream thing. I'm saying there is an undercurrent here of just overwhelming anti-Arab sentiment that is growing because of this war. But the bigger thing for me, obviously that's unacceptable, but the bigger thing for me is a regional war and a larger conflict with major powers like, say, Russia or China and the United States being involved.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's really, like, the sky is the limit in terms of extremism. I wouldn't be surprised, like, whatsoever, if they actually start adopting those philosophies, that, like, those extreme ideologies within Israel, especially within especially when it comes to the current power dynamics at play in the region. Because, I mean, why stop at Gaza? Like you have multiple people in the Israeli government that does believe in a greater Israel, which includes seizing
Syria.
Yes, seizing parts of Syria, seizing Jordan, seizing Lebanon, and I like how much is it going to, like, how far is this going to go, basically? And you're talking earlier about um Israel not having the means to even, like, get these these nuclear facilities and what have you in Iran, because they don't have, like, the bunker buster bombs and whatnot. And it's just like, like, not only is the United States providing the intel necessary, but like we may get like actually like directly involved. Like we have been invited by Israel to join the war against Iran because Iran and Israel have declared war upon one another. And like
That's wonderful.
this is this is not Iraq. This is not even fucking Vietnam. This is a country of 90 million
Well,
people.
Trump can't do that. That's one thing that I think we can rely is that Trump will not send troops. He will continue to send weapons, but he will not
Maybe.
send troops to fight Iran for Israel's cause because that's a line that Americans won't cross. We don't care about money and we don't care about weapons in terms of like winning the
Yeah.
war, making sure that the side that we want to win does win. But putting
It
troops
depends.
and Americans' lives out there, like that's another level. That'd be too much, I think, even for a lot of MAGA.
Maybe. I mean, it depends on what Israel actually does, though, because say we like what's
Well,
like
we could show up with an aircraft carrier. We could show
no,
up with an
yeah,
aircraft
yeah, like
carrier and drop some shit. Like,
we
yeah,
already have
I could
a
see
ship.
that. I could see that. Sure.
Yeah, we have ships in the Red Sea right now that are designated for refueling aircraft.
Mhm.
So like we have like established like airspace dominance in Iran right now apparently, but if like there is no stated goal right now, and that needs to be hammered away at by the media because media does not do a good job at this shit, and like I mean they're doing a piss poor job at trying to sell this war to the American public to begin with because we fucking learned our lessons.
Yeah, Connor,
Some of
can
us
you
have.
speak to what the end game here is for Israel? I mean, what do they have a stated goal? Because I checked on a map and there's at least two countries in between them and Iran. So it can't be just borders. They're not just going for a land grab here. They're just trying to prevent them from developing nuclear weapons? Is that like a
And that's not
pre-attack?
even a goal either.
It's hard to say for certain. I mean, the sad reality about these kinds of conflicts, especially ones that are rather extreme in how they came to be, especially when you've got somebody as corrupt as Netanyahu in power, it becomes kind of hard to discern where the corruption starts and where the strategic considerations begin. Um, so I think there's a couple things. Firstly, yes, I think there is a genuine fear, uh, however unreasonable it is, that Iran will get a nuclear weapon. They've been saying it, like you said, for 30 years. But the other side of this is, I think Israel sees Iran as a challenger in the region. It sees it as as a limiter to its ability to extend its influence throughout the Middle East, and so they see this as an opportunity to eliminate a major rival. I mean, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, again was openly joking about potentially assassinating the leader of Iran. I mean, like
Yes.
I have no love for the Iranian regime. They routinely abuse women. They beat and killed women in the streets for protesting for their right to not have to wear a hijab or wear it when they
Mm.
choose to. But the idea that the sitting president of the United States would openly joke about a political assassination of another head of state uh, on behalf of a foreign power is absurd. So I don't necessarily know what the end goal is here, but all I can say is that ultimately this is not acceptable. I will say there is another bit of hope, however small it is that this probably is illegal if Trump tries to pull some like direct intervention against Iran. The current war power statutes don't, as far as I'm aware, allow for a direct confrontation with Iran
Right,
without
without
another like
Congress.
vote. And so I think ultimately if they really want to go this route with a full-on direct conflict, I think you'll actually see some pushback even among the Republicans because there's a significant isolationist wing within the GOP. And this is kind of why you got that fight between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, because ultimately, even if they're wrong on isolationism when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, it's rather advantageous to preventing a larger war in the Middle East.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not to mention, like you got Trump posting on Truth Social that Tehran needs to evacuate immediately. What, like 10 million fucking people? And I just heard today that apparently the entire internet grid of Iran is just completely down. Like there's no internet in Iran, like at all. I didn't see like further reporting on it, but so it might have been temporary, but um, it's just insane that the president of the United States can just get online and just say like all like the whole city of Tehran needs to evacuate me. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? And not to mention, um, if there's no like stated goal, if the goal is to like take out the leaders of Iran, it's just like if if they have leaders overseeing these nuclear facilities, what happens when like that leadership, those scientists, those staff members, whatever, what if they get taken out and like all of a sudden like the uranium that they're apparently enriching is no longer secure? Like
Mhm.
how like if the goal is to like uh dampen and weaken Iranian resolve, and no one's there to like oversee these Iranian these nuclear facilities, they can fall into the hands of non-state actors, of extremists,
Yes.
like extremists, as in people who aren't who aren't are
Mhm.
unleashed, like unchained, unhinged, um,
The Iranian
like
Revolutionary Guard.
exactly, yeah, worse than that. I forget the actual. There's this particular group within Iran. I forget their actual name, but like if it falls into the hands of like these extremist jihadi groups, like w- do we put boots on the ground then to make sure it doesn't get into the hands of them? Does Israel even have the capabilities to do that? How much would we get involved? And how would we even know if we did drop like enough bunker buster bombs into one area? How would we know if like these refineries have their capacity negated? Like how would we verify this shit? You know, it's
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah, it's just I think long term,
I think about
I think
must
long
turn on.
term Netanyahu here has crossed a line when he went from an internal conflict to an external conflict. Like it's one thing to try to sweep out a bunch of people in your own hood, but going a couple hoods down the street and trying to fuck them up so that they don't fuck you up in the future, that's a tough sell. So Iran is going to want Netanyahu's head on a platter for this.
Of course.
So I think it's kind of just a matter of time. And I think it probably has a lot to do with 2028 and who becomes
Mhm.
president in 2028 and if someone can finally shut down APAC. I
And
mean,
that's
can we call for just like the dissolution of APAC, the NRA, all these disgusting, I guess it has to be made illegal for them to exist, right?
I think you're going to run into an issue with trying that without overturning Citizens United,
Right.
and so I think fundamentally calling for a complete and total reformation of campaign finance would be necessary to come even close to that. The other thing is you're going to run into an issue of targeting people based off of political beliefs. That's going to be the legal argument. I would like to see more strong legal restrictions on foreign influence and
Oh yeah.
lobbyists. Because like APAC is just one example of that. Like in this case, APAC is one of the biggest influences on behalf of Israeli nationalism and Kahanism, in my opinion.
yes,
But I would also argue that like we have had a serious deficit in terms of national security when it comes to dealing with foreign lobbyists and media operators from Russia. I
hmm
mean, take the Tenet Media case. That was an example of the Russian state through RT actively working to influence the body politic of America, the minds and perspectives of the American people through illegitimate means, and paying people like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Lauren Southern.
Right.
I
Who
mean,
should be
all
in
of these
jail?
people.
Benny
Who should
Yeah,
Johnson.
be in jail right now?
Yeah,
They
they
should
should.
be in jail for they should be
Yeah,
in jail for treason right now.
yeah. No, it's insane. And it's like what you were talking about before, Connor, with the War Powers Act and whatnot. It really depends on if Congress can even catch up to the executive at this point. Because like, what if Trump pulls a George W. Bush and Well, I mean, then again, Congress did eventually sign on to the Iraq War, like pretty much all of them except like one person, which was
Bernie
uh no, it was Bar
Boyle.
Barbara
No,
Walters.
no. Barbara
Uh,
Walters is a journalist. Anyway,
but yeah, no. Like, what if Trump like beats out Congress and like like just unilaterally decides, okay, we're joining the war. We are committing X amount of supplies and support and military and air power and this, that, and the other to the region before Congress is even able to like put a hold on his power, because he's been actually he's been able to get away with a lot so far. Sure,
yes,
the courts have caught up with him with a handful of things, but it is the Steve Bannon method right now. Flood the
yes.
zone, do a whole bunch of things at once. That way, the
That's why I think
media,
you could.
the
I
justice
think you can
system's not able to
probably.
catch up with you.
That's why I think you can probably expect a few aircraft carriers, but boots on the ground, I just don't think. No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
too much.
Megan doesn't think so
It's
either.
yeah, it's too much. No, boots on the technology, weapons, money. People don't give a fuck. You put
Right.
American soldiers. Remember, it's one of their false gods. Remember, Dieter's three false gods of conservative citizenry are the framers in the Constitution, the unregulated free market, and the uniform. Conservatives worship the uniform,
Yeah.
both domestic and abroad. But and speaking of domestic police force in America, let's move on. Unless you got anything else you want to say, Connor, but I'd like to
Pretty
move
much
on
it.
to No Kings. I think we've covered
Yep.
the Middle East. Simplifying that conflict down, though, it really does come down to Nazi Netanyahu. I mean, like
Mhm.
the sooner that guy is served over hot coals, the better. I mean, just
Yeah.
put it all on him. Let's everybody start over. Everybody
Right.
go back to their borders and start over. It was all Netanyahu's fault. But anyway,
Everybody watched Palestine by Sean. It's an hour and a half. It was put out a little over a year ago, and it's still just as relevant. Really great video.
okay, yeah,
So put a
Palestine
pin
by
on that.
Sean.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. The No Kings protest. Did you go? Was it amazing? Because you're in a blue state, so I imagine the attendance was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm in a
So
blue state. I'm in a blue. Our Statbat's in a red area, but I'm in a blue area.
Reddish.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, so my suburb, I won't dox myself or anything, although my location is kind of public record because there's a couple of journalists I've talked to in some mainstream newspapers or have been published just because of me. I got graduated and they decided to just publish that for some reason. So I'm in the northern suburbs of Illinois, and yes, the No Kings protests were, in my opinion, an unmitigated success. We had around 1,500 people at my protest. I attended. It was really, really nice for two reasons. Number one, the organizers set clear rules about how they were going to handle disruption from the beginning. We had good communication with local officials, so there was no room for them to be able to say, "Hey, you're in violation of this, this, and this. We're shutting you down," or anything like that. There was none of that. Also, we had organizers who were very well focused on keeping everybody clear about where they were supposed to be, what they were supposed to be doing, and ultimately it went perfectly. I think the only thing that happened, and I didn't see this because it was at the edges of the protest. One woman allegedly started yelling at people in her truck and then crashed her car or bumped her car into, a police car and then drove off. I don't know what happened with that. Apparently she was some sort of Trump supporter, but I haven't heard anything about that since. She probably
no, nothing
has a
really
warrant
made
with
the
her.
news. Nothing
No.
really big happened. Nobody got seriously hurt, which I'm a little surprised by, to be honest with you.
I mean, there was the incident in Utah where I believe somebody.
Oh, the guy with the gun, right, in Salt Lake.
Yeah,
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 they
and
found that guy with a gun, but they got it. Yeah, they took care of him. They didn't, he like screwed up, and somebody saw him with the gun, and then like took the gun away from him. So
good.
that was
Okay, I thought
that was well done. But no one drove through a crowd or anything like that.
at least not with
least
any
not that.
consistency.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good to see the country unite around this common problem, this common enemy of MAGA. I was active with my community. I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America in my town, and I brought my megaphone and used it as a recruiting opportunity, and saying things like Bernie was right. Who wants healthcare? I know I do. Make your activism matter. Get active, stay active. Join your local DSA today. Those kinds of things. And we did well, man. We brought in a lot of new members, and it's going to be it's going to snowball hopefully here in my town. So that's really my effort now is, okay, we've got all this energy. What are we going to do with it? How do we make it last? And how do we make it sticky? And everybody wants a new generation of political leaders. What's like our Federalist Society, right? They got the Federalist Society on the right. What's the equivalent on the left? I think it's the DSA. Do you have any comparable organizations that you think could play that role?
Not at the moment. I think the biggest problem right now for the Democratic or left-wing activist clique, if you want to describe it like that, is that we've kind of focused primarily of working within the party, which is something we still should be doing, and not really focusing on building power around the party. Being able to have a generation of people at the ready to get involved when the previous generation leaves office. For example, Dick Durbin, who is my senator, he is not running for re-election. Now there are a bunch of new people who have either been around the block or are still relatively young, like Raja Krishnamurthy, who are now pursuing that seat. I know Julia Stratton is another one, but most of these figures are well known because they're either in Congress or in the case of Stratton, a lieutenant governor, and a couple of
Illinois
other
is
people
not
as
going to
well.
have a problem. Illinois is not going to have a problem filling that spot.
No.
Like there's going to be some good talent. They got informed, very educated voter population in where you are. So like that's a good thing that Dick Durbin's getting out of the way for the next generation. I wish more people would do that. I think it's going to require actually more aggressive political tactics with more purple districts. Like the one issue, man, that we can really rally behind, I think, you tell me if you feel otherwise, I don't know if you agree, Stat Pat, but is healthcare. People are sick of paying these goddamn premiums. They're sick of the copays. It's just all adding up. They're like, look at their end of the year expenses and like, Jesus Christ, a third of my fucking money went to healthcare. Like if you pay for your own insurance, like I do. So I think that's the issue. That it's like somebody said it. And I can't track down who did, but he said, you know, when this is all over and the pendulum swings back the other way, America's going to expect healthcare. This is ridiculous. Like. Especially with Luigi Mangione, people are like, "Free Luigi is going to be a campaign thing in 2028." You bet your ass.
Yeah, I actually just got like a new job, and it's shitty because they're a company that's not based in California. So the healthcare that they offer is even more subpar. Like it's a lot more of a national entity, and it's just discouraging because I did prefer having the healthcare I did have before, and it goes without saying the fact that any healthcare is tied to your employer
No, it's ridiculous.
is yeah, it's fucking absurd.
It's also bad business. Like people who aren't healthy aren't contributing to the economy, so it's counterproductive. I mean, we spend millions and millions of dollars with homeless people going to the emergency room.
Yeah, and I would also add like the amount of stuff you can cover with your health insurance, depending upon what plans you have, also means that some people, even though they have health insurance, might not necessarily be able to say get dental, or they might not be able to get certain treatments that they need because it's out of network. So they hold off until they get until the problem gets worse and ends up costing them even more money.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think the big thing right here is if we don't get universal health care, we need an expansion. At the very least, Democrats should be calling for an expansion of healthcare access, being able to negotiate drug prices more aggressively. And the other side of this is making these drug companies actively take responsibility for some of the addictive drugs that they were pushing on us, like the Sacklers were all those years ago. We still have that problem, and part of and this is kind of tangentially related to the issue we're talking about here. But part of the reason people support RFK Jr. wrongly, I should add, is because they feel that the healthcare industry and the pharmaceutical companies are corrupt. The problem is they think of corruption as anybody who supports a vaccine, when in reality, the corruption is preventing Americans from getting access to critical health care and pushing addictive drugs. We need a thorough reexamination not only of how we approach healthcare access in this country, but also how we approach pharmaceutical drugs, especially what
the FDA.
And to be more transparent, so conspiracy mongers like RFK Jr. can't get a foothold. People like RFK Jr. take advantage of the fact that there is a genuine problem in terms of how the American people have been treated by the healthcare industry, by the pharmaceutical industry, by the powers that be, so to speak. But his solution is just garbage. It's to conspiracy monger. It's to undermine scientific evidence and consensus and peer review and transparency and just hoping that it'll benefit him. I mean, this is a guy who made what was it, like 6 figures with his Children's Health Defense Organization, an organization that he founded to spread anti-vaccine propaganda lies. Like grifters are pulling on our ability to mobilize people to actively fix the system because they're distracting people. I would not be surprised in the slightest if RFK Jr. was getting paid under the table to kind of just keep people distracted.
Absolutely.
That's my tinfoil hat there a little bit.
No, absolutely. Oh, I got a whole bunch of tinfoil hat shit. Honestly, that really isn't that far like detached from reality. I mean, especially given how fucking lowly people act and people behave and shit. Like the corruption is fucking everywhere. I mean, like I don't even get a choice in which healthcare provider I want. With my last job, which was based in California, like the company is actually like based here in the state. I actually did have a choice of like what healthcare provider I wanted, let alone plans. But like with my new job, it's just one measly choice. And like, sure, like having a choice is fine, but like ultimately, what needs to happen is health insurance needs to be available to everyone, and it should include dental and vision. And apparently, a new book just actually came out on the people who are pushing like oxy and harmful, addictive pharmaceuticals and whatnot. It's one of the most corrupt industries in America, and it's like strictly an American thing.
But they're deep into the Democratic Party establishment, man. They are deep into that Democratic Party establishment. So it's going to take a progressive revolution to get the kind of change we're talking about here. I mean, you're talking about enormous problems. And I think we can get the general public to agree that big problems require big solutions. Like that's the messaging that I think the progressive left needs to unite around. And Conor, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about the political marketing for the progressive left. The suggestion that let's just start with FDR's second Bill of Rights. We have a historical figure and an historical piece of intellectual property, really is what it is, that he came up with that would have gone through if he had lived, and we forgot about it. And I want to bring the party back to FDR. Like that's a good, easy marketing message. I joke with StatPad all the time. I'm like, whoever does get this stuff done, if it gets done, whoever does get, universal health care and solves housing and all this other stuff, it's like, dude, you didn't come up with these ideas. These all belong to someone who is a hell of a lot smarter than you. Like the genius is the guy that comes up with the ideas on his own. The genius isn't actually just executing a game plan that's 60 years old that we just kind of seem to have forgotten about in this country.
Yeah, I think the fact that we've kind of looked at the government as an inherently bad thing is part of the problem. Government is neither good nor bad. It's just a means to an end. I think we need to first get people to remember that if you want societies to function, you need good government. You can't just start from the assumption that what the government is doing is what the government is going to be able to do or act upon is inherently malicious. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be skeptical. Yeah, government is good when you actually have control over it. When the people actively engage in the political sphere, when they educate themselves, when they participate in their communities, they are able to change things.
Bingo.
Like you can put as much money as you want in a race, but at the end in an electoral race, whether it's congressional, statewide, or senatorial races, but the end result is that you need votes. And ultimately, the only way you get votes is by having people. So for me, I want people to start talking about, particularly progressives, to start talking about the fact that government is not your enemy.
Bingo.
It's your property. The government is of the people, by the people, for the people, forever. That is the objective. If we keep looking at politics and government as an inherently dirty business, it will remain just that.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
so I would just
exactly.
rephrase my I'm putting on my political marketing ad. I say government is good because people are good. Government is not the problem. Baby boomer conservative capitalism is the problem. Like if you get that specific with the label, then people will respond to it. I mean, take all this racial resentment, take all this xenophobia, and put it. You got to put it somewhere. I really do believe this. This is kind of a negative way of looking at a society, but I think in a society that's based on competition and a culture that's based on competition, which ours, of course, is, you're going to need to find someone to blame when things are this bad, when things are this wrong. And that's why you take all that resentment, that cultural resentment, you just, like we were just saying, put it all on Netanyahu, put it all on the baby boomers, man. The baby boomer conservatives are sociopaths. The baby boomer liberals were too weak to stop them. And when they were in power, they took the party of FDR and turned it into the party of neoliberal Clinton. And then the progressives, there just weren't enough of you guys. And you guys didn't, they snubbed you out. I'm sorry about that. But it's time to put the baby boomers out to pasture. I think that's a message that people can get behind for the next for the next 12 years. I think that's going to be the message in terms of elections is give me someone young, good looking, and angry on the left. That's what in terms of just the marketing, give me someone young, good looking, and angry. That's what, in your neck of the woods, Kat Ubagazalia. She's, did real well.
She's
she had an
great.
event last night that I saw. So, I mean, she might be and Zorem might be what do they call him? A harbinger of things to come.
Yeah. And I will say part of the thing that I've always kind of wondered with the Democratic Party is why can't we be more angry? Why can't we, call bullshit, a spade, a traitor, an insurrectionist, an insurrectionist.
Do you want to know the answer? There's two reasons.
I do want to. I just want
to. You go with your answer, and then I'll use mine.
Yeah, and I think the reason is, as much as I like the academic approach, I mean, I'm wearing a tie in this freaking show, is there seems to be this attitude that if we hold to the academic appearance, if we hold to the restrained approach, we are the better people. But the thing is, there is such a thing as righteous anger. Righteous anger at the abuse of the citizenry, righteous anger at the corruption of our institutions, righteous anger at the cruelty of people that we as a society have deemed the other. And I think more Democrats need to engage with their righteous anger, because righteous anger gets people out to vote. In 2020, we had some of the largest voter turnout in nearly 100 years, because people were pissed at the Trump administration for its complete and lackluster response to COVID and the lives we lost.
Yeah,
I dig righteous anger.
Yeah. I'll put it up. I mean, dude, we live in a fuck you culture. We live in a fuck you society. Johnny Cochran got O.J. Simpson off for murder because he knew that downtown Los Angelinos wanted to say fuck you to the LAPD. Like, that's just one cultural example. But there are thousands others that if you're an American and you have the option of like winning the race or feeling better than somebody, they're going to choose feeling better than somebody and knocking them down. Feeling better by knocking them down. It's the old LBJ quote. But the two reasons that I come up with for why the left isn't more comfortable with its anger, and by the way, I would call it justifiable anger that you want to transform into righteous rage that you then give to your political leader, right? What do they do with it? Either exercise, meditate, read, and then if there's anger left over, then give it to your local politician. I think that's a good campaign message for the next 2, 3, or 4 cycles. But the left, it has two problems with anger. One is that we have all the artists, dude. Don't forget, like art is by definition empathetic. So those people are going to be, 90-95% of artists are going to be on the left, and they don't all do their homework. So they just vote Democrat and yada, yada, yada. Right. They don't like they'll vote, but they don't really want to be involved. They don't like conflict. They don't like competition. That's a good chunk of the Democratic voter base. So, and then related to that is the Democratic Party has an equality problem in that they think that their leaders need to reflect in some sort of perfect way the voters. Or, as you were saying, be emblematic of a way of winning that is righteous as opposed to practical, that is actually motivating the voters to think of it as a war, as a nonviolent sociocultural war. And I think what the Democratic Party needs to do is separate the voters from the leaders, in that there's one criteria. We're all about diversity on this side of the aisle. Love people from different backgrounds, it's great. But I want all of the leaders in the next generation of Democratic Party politicians to be competitors. I want it's people say winner. What is a winner? A winner is just a good competitor. I want people who hate losing, who hate MAGA, who hate incrementalism, who know that MAGA is not a verdict on the alt-right. It is a verdict on the last 45 years of Washington politics and how we've been doing things wrong for 45 fucking years. So, yeah, I think that this obsession with the method by which we achieve change, right? Love conquers all. Bullshit, right? Bringing back the joy and then invoking when we fight, we win. And it's like, wait a second. Fighters aren't happy. Fighters are happy after the fight, after they win. That's when the joy comes. When they're fighting, they're pissed. Have you ever seen a fight? Have you ever seen an MMA fight? Or a boxing match? Give me a break. It's basic common sense with respect to understanding the culture of competition, which I'm interested to know how you kind of became acquainted with the culture of competition, because I think a lot of lefties take it for granted. Like, oh yeah, I understand competition. Of course I understand. I don't need to watch sports or be into other form, play cards or anything like that to understand competition. It's like, well, how do you?
I mean, I played sports as a kid a little bit, but obviously it's a bit different. I think the biggest thing for me was I really enjoyed when I was in high school congressional debate, and you were judged on your own individual merits, on your speaking ability, your ability to respond to rhetoric. Your goal was to win. Your goal was to defeat the argument of the person you were dealing with. So for me, the biggest goal was to prove like, hey, yeah, I am going to win this shit, and I am going to do it in a way that I think represents me best. But to the other side of this, I think, is when it comes to going out into the field and talking to people, there are legitimate reasons to appeal to people's anger. I mentioned before we came on the show that I was working with All United Political Action Committee to get rid of a very anti-Palestinian mayor in Orland Park by the name of Keith Pekow. We were successful. We didn't just get rid of him. We got rid of, I believe it was the whole board that he had behind him, and replaced him with Jim Dodge and his board. So now we have a nonpartisan, I would say left wing pro-Palestinian mayor who was actually at one of the All United fundraisers a couple weeks ago. I mean, we went out there and we have directly addressed the anger of the constituents about how Pekow was handling the money, how he was handling the audits, how he was handling connections with the comptroller's office. We were appealing to people's anger. We said straight up, do you want change? Are you pissed off at your leader? Are you pissed off at the state of your community? Here's how you can do something about it. Vote Jim Dodge. And granted, the anger should not be the only thing we go about. We ultimately should have anger with a plan for a better future. We can't just be angry all the time. That's not healthy either. And we want to build a healthy, functional society. But we should be able to say, hey, yes, we're angry because we're not getting our needs met. Our community is being undermined by these corrupt, evil people who do not care about their constituents, and we are going to remove them. So I think that attitude needs to be weaponized, utilized in rhetoric. And I feel like Democrats, even if you're not necessarily a progressive Democrat, I still think we can all agree that in the face of fascism, anger is a normal and reasonable emotion to possess. Period.
Absolutely. The fact that it's here Like we fought this war 70 years ago. What are we doing here? 80 years ago. To defeat fascism. It's funny. It's like I really get so my grandfathers fought against the Nazis, and my parents financially and publicly supported Trump in 2016 by going to this fundraiser that I talk about in my second episode. And I'm like, my grandfathers fought against the Nazis so that my father could become a Nazi. I mean, it's really sad. He's repentant, but my mom isn't. So it's it's a very it's a very interesting time because people who are politically savvy, like the three of us, we've been talking about fascism since Trump became president 8 years ago, 9 years ago, right? Um, but people are like, "Oh no, it's not fascism. It's just a practical form of conservatism and running the country like a business and all this bullshit." And now it's finally here.
Which
It's like
is
this is what I'm talking about with the equality. Is it's not about like who are we going to listen to, right? Are we going to listen to the people who just came to the party, who just showed up late, or the people who have been here since the beginning and actually went out and bought all the booze and recognized like actually this is the kind of thinking that we should be engaging in? And I don't know why we're not, because we had a president that won 4 consecutive elections and proved that the relationship between citizen and government should be a robust one. What are we
Yes.
what are we even doing here? And it's just a lack of history, I think. I think it's really
mhm.
just people just not knowing their goddamn history. They know 1980 to the present day through a very skewed lens of winning the Cold War. It's like we're still not over the fact that we won the Cold War or something. That's where I feel like the foundation of MAGA patriotism is.
And I would also add, on the Cold War side of things, when it comes to like how we talk about the Soviet Union and really a lot of these the world today, we really seem to forget the fact that the United States practically rebuilt the world. Like the government can be an enormous organizer of resources and capital to do some really good things. I mean,
Right.
after World War II, pretty much all the countries of the earth were decimated, save for the United States and the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union was in no condition to bankroll the world like the United States was. The
Mhm.
international order that we are now backing away from, in out of blind fear of some supposed globalist threat, is our baby. We are literally leaving our baby in the dumpster. The
Mhm.
If people want to have peace, you need strong, robust international and domestic institutions to protect and maintain that peace. And withdrawing, like the Trump administration is doing right now, is completely and utterly unacceptable. And I think we need to start talking about that more, because we have consistently shown again and again over the last like 100 years that we are capable of using government as the artful expression of power, resources, and
Yeah.
human capital to achieve good ends. It's a lack of political will, not an impossibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's it's something that I've like taken notice of as well. It's just like the complete decimation of the public sector, the gutting of international funding for various organizations that have done so much good around the world. And, you know, what the hell happened to Doge? It just fizzled out. Like there was little to no fraud actually uncovered. Meanwhile, all these programs that were helping countless people around the world, which I mean, it's good for us geopolitically. We have the leverage, and it's just being literally just wiped the fuck away for no reason, and it's all for a purpose though, because if you take a look at the big beautiful bill, the more programs that are gutted, even if they do good things around the world, even domestically as well, especially domestically, it is just an excuse for the Republicans in the House and the Senate to be able to pass tax cuts for the ultra rich.
Yeah.
Keep those tax cuts permanent. Like, I mean, we talked about healthcare earlier. They're about to knock 16 million people off of their health
For
care
Medicare. Yeah.
just to save enough money so that way we can give tax breaks to the ultra wealthy that don't fucking need it. Like, it's absolutely disgusting, and they're using every excuse in the book: fraud or lazy people. They want work requirements for Medicaid recipients. It's just
Yes.
fucking bullshit. It's just squeezing the working class dry so that way their daddies, the fucking billionaire class, have more money to throw around at whatever the fuck they want, to have like more control over every institution. That's the way the fucking Trump administration is right now. Like every head of all these agencies is some fucking corporate goon, and this is just lending them more power and more leeway just to do whatever the fuck they want.
And I would just like also add that part of the reason we are here is because we have associated access to capital as access to intelligence and greatness.
Right. Yes.
We have allowed the fetishization of entrepreneurs, of wealthy people, to continue
Right.
like
Eisenhower.
unfettered, and it's just completely and utterly unacceptable. We've let this idea that people like Elon, who have a crap ton of money because of their government contracts, I should add, are somehow the best people to lead our society rather than the people themselves.
But that's
And
the stupidity of the American consumer.
Yep.
I mean, everything is superficial. This is my 4th episode. There's the self-serving superficiality of conservative capitalist cognition, where it's all just to serve greed. Like, people just want and expect, and like America since Reagan has culturally given people permission and actually even encouraged people to be greedier than ever.
Yeah,
It's okay. It's fun to be greedy. You should be greedy. The only thing better than money is fame, and the only thing better than fame is being an A-list athlete
yeah.
and winning
Like
Super Bowls.
they're
Like
claiming.
the
Go ahead.
No, you
Okay,
got it.
like they're claiming like, okay, like with Doge we're gonna save the American consumer, the American taxpayer, $1 trillion, and then
good luck.
the number kept on lowering and lowering, and like turns out like when all is said and done, like maybe 60
But it's just a
billion dollars of
smokescreen, though. They're
yeah
just trying to get the tax cut is the real purpose. Like, that's
yeah
all they really care about. Everything else is just there to justify that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Meanwhile,
this is
the
an interesting
countless
point, though.
programs.
So taxing wealth, not income. You should be taxing both, but yes, capital gains is kind of where it's at, because if someone's making a lot of money, maybe they just started making $1 million a year. Like, I don't want to hurt that person from at taxing them at like 90% or something like that. But someone who's making a couple of $1 million a year but has an investment portfolio worth like 25 million, yeah, they can afford to contribute more, right?
Mhm.
So how do you make that portfolio contribute as opposed to what the guy's doing for real work, right? I think you tax dividends at the point of transaction.
Yeah, I
I
agree
think
with
that's a
that.
creative way of getting around it, because you can't tax unrealized gains. It's not fair. They haven't taken the money out. Remember, Stat Pat, what we've talked about, and Conor, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. The money doesn't get taxed unless it moves.
I believe that's correct, but I'd have to check. I don't want to say something that's just off the cuff if I didn't prepare for it. So
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that's right. It's because if I put $1 million in the stock market the day I was born and I just haven't touched it, then I don't have. And the thing that comes out of that portfolio, though, over those 40 years is dividends. And most people have it auto set that the dividend just reinvests back into the stock that it comes from. And what I'm saying is $5,000 dividend or whatever per share, tax that at, I don't know, tax that at 37%, which is, I guess, what capital gains is right now.
Hmm.
No, capital gains is less than that. But, it should be taxed at the point of transaction rather than having people collect it and then they have to report it.
It would
So
need
I
to be
think
done
there's
the right
creative
way.
ways. And then also, too, the big one that I was talking about today on this space, check me out Wednesdays at 4 o'clock Pacific on this space. Cool little coalition of progressive YouTubers. Was taxing churches, taxing mega
Please.
churches to be specific.
Yes,
You know,
please.
like Joel Osteen's flying around. I mean, those are for-profit entertainment businesses. I think that would
Yeah.
play really well in the media too for marketing reasons, because you got to deal with this "how are we going to pay for it" question with more than just, oh, the economics will work out someday. And it's like, no, we actually do have other sources of tax revenue. Yes, taxes on higher earners, but that my point is, overall, I don't think increasing, going back to Eisenhower tax rates, I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough, because most people's net worth is caught up in their portfolio anyway, at least for the people that you're trying to go after.
I think the other thing we also have to remember is that when Social Security was created, the generation of people that like we have now weren't like all retiring all at once. We have a much older
Right.
like generation, so there's a lot more people pulling out of it. So the financial planning is going to have to be different, and I think that that's got to be something that has to be considered whenever there's somebody talking about how are we going to pay for it. And the other thing that I think we also should push back on is this idea that a budget surplus necessarily means a healthy country. I mean, Iran has a budget surplus right now, if I remember correctly, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the Iranians are doing better off financially than Americans. We have to be able to say like some debt spending is necessary. So I think we should be trying to make sure we're able to pay for all of these things that we are trying to provide for people, and B, remind people that sometimes in times of emergency or in times of just general public good, there are legitimate reasons to debt spend. There are legitimate reasons to
Yes.
invest in the American people
And
and in the public.
you can actually even draft a law that says as soon as we do have a surplus, like 50% of it has to go to pay down the debt or something like that. Like
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
theoretically do something like that.
It's
Here we go. Dividend taxes work well because, like taxing land, it generates immediate revenue, but also forces the commodity back to its market price. If a business wants to avoid, they issue fully franked stock. Okay.
Mhm.
There's an interesting.
like right now, like the big beautiful bill in its current form, like the version that was passed by the House, there is no way that it reduces the deficit. Like Republicans are in a position now to where, like, I think for the first time in like Congress's history, the Republicans would have to vote on increasing the debt ceiling, which as far as I know, they've never done before, which means borrowing more money, therefore increasing the debt, and it's just never been done before. This bill is just so disastrous, and there's another part of the bill that isn't really being talked about as much. I did want to touch on this a little because like there's just so many horrible provisions in the bill. But this is from Janessa Goldbeck on Twitter. There's a lot of horrific news coming out of Washington right now, but you might have missed this. Senate Republicans just introduced a plan to sell off 120 million acres of our public lands. Buried in the Senate budget bill is a massive giveaway to corporate developers and fossil fuel companies. It forces the sale of at least 2 million acres of Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management land in 11 western states every 60 days until millions of acres are gone. And these
Right.
aren't just any lands, they include wilderness study areas, roadless national forests, big game migration corridors, local recreation lands, tribal homelands, and sacred sites with no right of first refusal. And it would be the largest public land sell off in modern U.S. history. And it's happening right now with no hearings, no debate, and no public input. And there's a bunch of different maps for it and whatnot. And this is being pushed by piece of shit senators like Mike Lee out of Utah, who's just a fucking racist pile of dog shit, fucking owned by APAC, has said horrible things in regards to ICE abducting and kidnapping and just brutalizing migrants, just the scummiest of the scummiest. And if that gets through this current the new Senate reiteration of the bill, it's just like say goodbye to public lands, I guess.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's absolutely
All
horrible.
right. Connor, go ahead, take it away, man. I think we're gonna wrap up soon, but yeah, why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, so firstly, I just want to before we get to an end with this, I would like to say in regards to Mike Lee's character, he has none. If I don't know if either
Yeah.
of you were watching what happened with Mike Lee on Twitter surrounding the the assassination of the former speaker of the Minnesota
Was he
State
trying to
House.
say everybody that it wasn't MAGA guy?
Oh
Trying to
no,
say it
he was
wasn't?
making jokes about the shooting with images of the freaking shooter at
Yep.
their house.
Yep.
I wrote a piece on this on my Substack at progressiveamerican.net, and he was
Yeah.
basically saying, what was the no? The picture was of the shooter at the house with through the camera, and he said, "Nightmare on Wall Street," because the shooter was at one point appointed or reappointed to an advisory board that was bipartisan by Governor Tim Walz, even though Tim Walz has nothing to do with this shooting.
Right.
And despite
Absolutely horrible.
repeated pushback for him to apologize and take down these tweets, he did not. And he did this on his
Yep.
personal account, mind you, where
Yeah.
he had 200,000 less followers, meaning he knew he was going to hopefully get less attention so he wouldn't have to suffer the consequences. If there's
Yeah.
one thing, and he also said the shooter was a Marxist. Thank you, Tracy. If there's one thing that we need to emphasize over and over and over again is that the Republican Party, as it stands today, has no character. They do not care about the American people. They will constantly tell us not to politicize mass shootings when these kinds of horrible things are public concerns and well-being. They will just say, don't politicize the mass shootings, don't talk about these things. But the moment that one of our people gets shot, and it's easy for them to make fun of it, to mock it, to get on people's horrible pain, they will do it without hesitation. They do not care about you. The GOP does not care. That should be the message every step of the way.
Yeah, they
Well,
want they want us all dead, and like if not dead, then like suffering, but do it quietly. Fucking Jon Stewart had a fucking great rant. Sorry to cut you off, either, but
No,
like this most recent Daily Show, he fucking made an excellent point. It's like every single motherfucking goddamn time with this shit. It's like Republicans like to make a huge stink about migrants in the country, undocumented migrants, Lincoln Riley Act, and this shit, like all these violent immigrants coming into the country and this and that, whatever, and it's like the worst thing in the world. And how dare people try to politicize or how dare people not try to take this seriously?
Why you're not surprised though?
Like,
you can't.
Yeah,
be
no, like
by
they
that.
politicize that, but then like when countless mass shootings happen over the last several years, they don't even dare to touch that shit, and they dare to say don't politicize that shit when that happens in like an insane more often amount than fucking immigrant violence. It's so fucking
to get
disgusting.
to your message though, Connor, is like the GOP doesn't care about you, which I think is a good message. I mean, how do you do you have any thoughts on how to deliver, how to mainstream that message, how to make it like basically a sin to wear anything remotely resembling an endorsement of the Republican Party in all of our major metropolitan areas? Because that's what I want. I want it to be dangerous to wear a MAGA hat in Chicago, that kind of thing.
I would say do what All United is trying to do right now, what they kind of tried to do and did successfully with Keith Pekow, which is plaster his comments about Palestinian activists that were on public record everywhere. They took those clips, put them everywhere. Everybody should know the horrible things they say and do about the American people and how little they actually care about you. So the best way I would say to get people to stop looking at MAGA hats or the Republican Party as the most patriotic party is to hold them to their own words against them. Confront them like Senator Tina Smith did. Get in their face and say, Is this you? This is what you've been doing? Because a lot of these guys have been able to hold on to the fact that they're on the internet. They're posting this stuff on the internet like it's a 2012 Reddit post or a 4chan blog and acting like this is how we're supposed to handle things. No,
Yeah.
what you posted affects real people, and they need to be reminded this is not just some abstract board where you're dealing with fictional people. You are dealing with real Americans, and you will be held accountable for every single thing. And that's the attitude I think Democrats should have had in 2015, 2016, and they should have it every single time that they go into an election. Every little thing that they do or say that is malicious, put it out there. Put it in their face.
So in line with Tracy Ava, do you know what WTF really stands for now in a post-Trump world? White trash fascism. That's the answer. That's where I'm going with you. See, I'm trying to get down to sound bites and clicks and provocative words. I think that's a nice little anchor there in our culture of just like, you go up to someone and you want to make sure they're not MAGA. Like, hey man, you know what WTF stands for? And and then you say like white trash fascism, and then you know you're on the same team. Because I do believe that like the intellectual question that is before us, long term is, are we talking about citizen versus citizen activism, or are we only talking about going after pieces of shit like Mike Lee, the politicians? And I think it is time for citizen versus citizen activism. I think it's time for someone like Wes Moore, someone from the corridor, whoever, some big name in Chicago, could get up with a map and say, hey, I talked to all the mayors in New York. I talked to the mayor of New York. I talked to the mayor of Philly. I talked to the mayor of Baltimore, yada, yada, yada. The guy talked to all these people, right? And we're all of the opinion that if you're MAGA, you should not come to these areas because we cannot guarantee your safety. We know these areas, like basically making it kind of like a tough guy, like, if I were you, I wouldn't go down that street. This is our neighborhood. I've lived here a long time, and outsiders don't do too well when they go down that alley. That kind of thing. Like gangster it up a little bit. Black Panther's this bitch. No more MLK civil rights. This is time for Black Panthers. I think anyway. Anyway. All right, Connor, any final thoughts from you about any of this? We're going to probably sign off here. We've been going for about an hour and 15.
All right. Well, I'll just say, first of all, thank you very much for having me back on. I really appreciate it. If you guys would like to check out my material, I'm actually going to be going live on Saturday at 2 p.m. CST with Dr. Greta Euling on the Russo-Ukrainian War. We're going to be talking about her book on indigeneity and the Crimean Tatars. But the other thing is, right now, things seem like it's completely and utterly hopeless. We're not in a position of power. The Republican Party is at each other's throats, and the country is kind of losing its mind. But this will end. Eventually, there will be an opportunity to take power back from the GOP and to build a better future. We just need to be ready. We need to be ready to push back and change this country for the better, and make sure that the Republican Party and all of its officials and supporters own the last 10 years of political dysfunction that they have pushed on us to deadly effect.
Yep. Brand it right in their forehead for the rest of their lives until the day they die or the day they repent. That's what we're going to do to you in all of Blue America. All right, Stap, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, it's not enough, but there is indications that MAGA is not entirely on board with the Trump agenda as it currently stands. I think 1 out of 4 don't actually support the big beautiful bill, as it were, in its provisions within it. And apparently, I guess 2/3 of Republicans in general don't even support the big beautiful bill that Speaker Johnson and Trump are desperate to push through and whatnot.
Right.
So, I mean, we'll take what we can get, but still, we need that we need the repenting, we need the like relinquish. And there are examples, like there are people who actually have been who have championed Trump for the past several years, who are coming around and being like, nah, fuck Trump, I'm done, I'm over this, he should be impeached, I regret ever being a part of this. And more of that, please. Yum yum.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Connor Kelly, the progressive American, stateless patriot of the Central Valley, I am Dear McBusiness, the American Wasp, reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely. Thanks again for coming, Connor. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. See you guys around.